My ex left me for self-discovery, but now she's obsessed and threatening my new girlfriend. I never saw it coming. Looking back, I can see how it all unfolded, how the small cracks grew into jagged chasms that eventually swallowed our marriage whole. But at the time, I was blind to it. Sarah and I had been married for 10 years, 10 long, steady years of routines, of shared history, of familiar faces and places. I thought that was how it was supposed to be. Stability, I thought, meant permanence. But then Sarah changed. It started with something small, a gym membership. She'd been talking for months about how she wanted to get in shape, complaining that she felt out of touch with her body. I encouraged it. Hell, I even paid for her membership as an anniversary gift. At first, it seemed like a good thing. She came home from those early morning classes glowing with energy, buzzing with excitement about how strong she felt, how she was setting new personal bests. I was proud of her, even if I couldn't fully relate. I wasn't exactly the fitness guy. A few beers with the guys after work, some weekend hikes every now and then, and that was enough for me. But seeing Sarah's transformation made me happy, for her, and for us. But what I didn't realize was that while she was transforming, our relationship was deteriorating. As the months went by, Sarah became less the woman I knew and more this stranger. She was always at the gym or with her new fitness friends. She started getting more involved in things I wasn't part of, fitness events, group outings, marathons, meal prepping. I would try to keep up with her stories, but after a while, it was like we were speaking two different languages. It's just a phase, I told myself. She's focused on herself right now, and that's okay. After all, wasn't that healthy? People are supposed to have their own hobbies, right? But over time, the distance between us became something I couldn't ignore. She wasn't just focusing on herself. She was pulling away from us. I remember one night when it hit me. I was sitting on the couch, waiting for her to come home. It was 9 p.m., then 10, then 11. I called her, and she didn't answer. When she finally walked in around midnight, her face flushed and hair pulled into a messy ponytail, I was too tired to be angry. "Where were you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Out with the girls from the gym," she said, casually dropping her keys on the counter like it was nothing. "We went out for drinks after the workout." "Drinks? On a Tuesday?" I asked. She shrugged. "Yeah. I just lost track of time." Lost track of time. That's when I knew things were slipping. Sarah, the woman who used to be my best friend, was now so absorbed in this new life that she could lose track of time while I sat at home, waiting for her. Things didn't get better. I tried to talk to her, but every conversation turned into an argument. "You don't get it, Ethan. I need this. I need to feel like I'm doing something for me," she said once, exasperation in her voice. "And what about us?" I shot back. "Where do I fit into all of this?" Her face softened, but it wasn't reassuring. "You do, Ethan. But I can't be the person you want me to be if I'm not happy with myself." I felt like I was losing her, but I couldn't figure out how to stop it. I didn't know how to fight for her because I wasn't sure who I was even fighting anymore. The day she left was quiet, and that's what made it worse. There wasn't any big blow-up, no screaming match. I came home from work to find her sitting on the couch, her hands clasped together in her lap like she was bracing herself. "I need to leave," she said, her voice soft but determined. I blinked, not fully understanding. "What do you mean, leave?" "I'm not happy, Ethan. I don't know who I am anymore, and I need to figure that out." The words hit me like a freight train. She wasn't happy? When had we become this? I stared at her, searching her face for some sign that she was just confused, that she didn't really mean it. But her eyes told the truth. She was serious. I need to find myself," she continued, and I could hear the tremble in her voice. "It's not you, it's me." I almost laughed at how cliché it sounded, but I couldn't. My chest felt like it was being crushed. This was my wife, the person I had built my life with, the woman I thought I would grow old with, telling me she was leaving. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to stop her. "What does that even mean, Sarah?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "Find yourself? You're just going to walk out? What about us? What about everything we've built?" She looked away, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. "I don't know, Ethan. I don't have the answers. I need space." I could feel the anger rising in my chest, mixing with the heartbreak. "Space? You don't just get to take space and leave me here wondering what the hell happened. We're supposed to be a team." "I know," she whispered. "But right now, I'm lost." I stared at her, waiting for something to change, for her to take it back. But she didn't. The next morning, she was gone. The weeks that followed were a blur of numbness. I went to work, came home to an empty house, tried to act like my life hadn't just fallen apart. But it had. I was like a shell of myself, walking around with this hole in my chest where Sarah used to be. I didn't know how to function without her, and I hated myself for it. Everyone around me noticed. My friends, my family, they all tiptoed around me like I was fragile, like I might shatter at any moment. I guess I was. I didn't talk about it with anyone. What was there to say? My wife left me because she didn't know who she was anymore? Because she wanted to be a different version of herself? Then came the worst part, watching her thrive without me. I tried to stay off social media, but it was impossible. Every time I logged in, there she was. Sarah was glowing, radiant in a way I hadn't seen in years. She was surrounded by her new friends, all smiles and adventure, hiking up mountains, running marathons, participating in fitness events. She looked happy, happier than she'd been with me. Each picture felt like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just moving on, she was thriving. And I was stuck in place, drowning in a sea of what-ifs. I convinced myself I was done with her. She had made her choice, and I needed to accept it. But deep down, I wasn't done. Not even close. I still clung to this pathetic hope that she'd come back, that she'd realize she made a mistake. And then, out of nowhere, one afternoon, I got a text from her. "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the message, my heart pounding in my chest. What could she possibly want now? To apologize? To tell me how great her life was without me? Part of me wanted to delete the message and never respond, but another part, this desperate, hopeful part I hated, wanted to see her. I finally texted back. "Okay. When and where?" We met at our old coffee shop. The one where we used to spend Sunday mornings sipping lattes, talking about everything and nothing. I hadn't been there since she left. It felt like stepping into a time capsule, a place that hadn't changed, even though everything else in my life had. When I walked in, I saw her immediately. She was sitting by the window, looking out at the street. She looked even better than she did in her pictures. Her skin glowed, her hair was pulled back in a messy but stylish bun, and she wore a fitted jacket that showed off her toned arms. She looked like someone who had their life together. Meanwhile, I felt like I had barely held mine together with duct tape. "Hey," I said, sitting down across from her. "Hey," she replied, her voice soft. There was an awkward silence as we both fidgeted, unsure of how to start. "I've been thinking a lot," she finally said, breaking the silence. "About us. About everything." I folded my arms across my chest, trying to keep my emotions in check. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. I thought when I left, I needed to find myself, she continued. I thought I needed to become someone else to be happy. But I was wrong. I was chasing something, and I thought it would make me whole, but all I found was that I was more lost without you. Her words washed over me, but they didn't have the impact she probably thought they would. I felt numb. I had spent months waiting for her to say something like this, but now that she had, it didn't feel like enough. "You were wrong?" I said, my voice harsher than I intended. "You think saying you were wrong fixes everything?" She flinched at the bitterness in my tone. "No, I know it doesn't fix anything. I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I just wanted you to know that I realize what I lost." I let out a humorless laugh. "You realize what you lost? Sarah, do you have any idea what these last few months have been like for me? You walked out, and I had to pick up the pieces. You didn't even try to fight for us. I thought I was fighting for myself," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I didn't realize I was losing you in the process." Her words hung in the air between us, but they felt hollow. I stared at her, feeling a mixture of sadness and anger bubbling up inside me. "Why now?" I asked, my voice raw. "Why are you telling me this now, after all this time? What changed?" She wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "I realized that all the things I thought I wanted, the fitness, the friends, the new life, it didn't mean anything without you. I thought I needed to be someone else to be happy, but I was wrong. I need us. I need you." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was all too little, too late. "And what happens when you get restless again?" I asked, my voice sharp. "What happens when you decide that you need to find yourself again? Do you just walk out on me all over again?" "I won't," she said quickly, reaching across the table for my hand. I pulled it back before she could touch me. "I can't trust you, Sarah," I said, my voice breaking. "You broke my heart. I can't just go back to how things were. I can't be that guy again, the one waiting around for you to figure out what you want." She looked at me, her face crumpling with regret. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I'm asking for one anyway. I want to fix what I broke, Ethan. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, if you are. The silence that followed felt suffocating. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again. Could we really rebuild something after so much had been broken? I don't know, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I need time. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. That's all I'm asking for. I left the coffee shop feeling heavier than when I had walked in. The weight of her words hung over me like a dark cloud, and I wasn't sure if I could carry it. Could I forgive her? Could I ever trust her again? As I walked away, I didn't have the answers. All I had was a gnawing sense of uncertainty and a tiny flicker of something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. It's been almost a year since that coffee shop conversation with Sarah, and the pieces of my life have slowly started to fall back into place. I didn't give her the second chance she was hoping for. I couldn't. No matter how sincere she seemed, the damage was too deep, and trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight. Instead, I took the time to focus on myself, to heal, and to understand who I was without Sarah in the picture. That's when I met Emily. She wasn't someone I had been looking for, not in any planned or deliberate way. We met by chance at a mutual friend's dinner party, and there was an instant connection. Emily was everything I didn't realize I needed: kind, grounded, and, most importantly, she had this ability to make me feel like myself again. With her, there were no games, no confusion. Things were easy, natural. She wasn't caught up in fitness obsessions or trying to mold herself into some idealized version of a person. She was real, present, and she made me laugh in a way I hadn't in a long time. With Emily, I felt like I could finally breathe again, like I was waking up from a long, suffocating dream. Things progressed quickly between us, but it never felt rushed. We were just right together. And for the first time since my marriage fell apart, I felt happy, genuinely happy. But, of course, that happiness didn't last without complications. Sarah hadn't let go. Even though we hadn't spoken in months after that coffee shop meeting, she lingered in the background like a shadow I couldn't quite shake. At first, it was subtle, liking old posts of mine on social media, sending the occasional text just to check in. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't want to give her false hope, and honestly, I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with her anymore. Then, the texts started getting more frequent. At first, they were innocuous. Hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Saw something that reminded me of our trip to the mountains. Miss those times. I ignored them, hoping she'd eventually stop. But she didn't. And then the texts started becoming more intrusive. Do you ever think about us? I still dream about you. I can't stop thinking about how things ended. I know we could still make it work. Do you still love me, Ethan? I know you do. I can feel it. I didn't respond. I thought the silence would send the message loud and clear, but it didn't. Instead, Sarah began to escalate. She started showing up at places she knew I'd be, at my favorite coffee shop, outside my office, even at the grocery store. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but it became too frequent to ignore. Ethan, can we talk? She would say, her voice filled with desperation. I miss you. I made a mistake. Please, just give me another chance. I told her no. Over and over again, I told her that it was over, that I had moved on. But it didn't seem to sink in. Sarah wasn't the same person I remembered. She was unhinged, erratic, and I started to feel uneasy every time she showed up unannounced. Then came the night she found out about Emily. It was completely innocent. I had posted a picture of us at a friend's barbecue, nothing overly romantic or suggestive, just a snapshot of a happy moment. But it was enough to set Sarah off. The flood of messages I got after that was relentless. She accused me of betraying her, of moving on too quickly, of leading her on. The messages were filled with rage, bitterness, and a kind of possessiveness that chilled me. You're supposed to be mine, Ethan. How could you do this to us? She'll never love you like I do. You belong with me. If I can't have you, no one will. That last message sent a shiver down my spine. I blocked her number immediately, but it didn't stop her. Sarah began showing up outside my apartment at night, lurking in her car, just sitting there, watching. I would see the silhouette of her vehicle parked across the street, and the hairs on the back of my neck would stand on end. Emily started noticing too. Who is that? She asked one night, peering through the curtains. Just someone from my past, I muttered, trying to downplay it. I'll handle it. But handling it wasn't as easy as I thought. I tried confronting Sarah the next time she was parked outside, but when I approached her car, she sped off, tires screeching down the street. I could feel her spiraling, and it terrified me. Things escalated even further when Sarah showed up at Emily's work. I don't even know how she found out where Emily worked, but there she was, causing a scene. She barged into Emily's office, screaming at her in front of her coworkers, calling her a homewrecker and worse. Emily called me afterward, her voice shaky and scared. "Ethan, what's going on?" she asked. "This woman is stalking me. She knows where I work, where I live. She's crazy." I felt the weight of guilt and fear crush me. I never wanted Emily to be pulled into this nightmare, but now she was in the crossfire of Sarah's obsession. "I'll take care of it," I promised, but I wasn't sure how. I filed a restraining order against Sarah, hoping that would be enough to keep her away. The process was long and grueling, but I had to do something to protect Emily, to protect us. Sarah was losing control, and I could feel the danger growing. But even the restraining order didn't stop her. One night, as Emily and I were getting ready for bed, there was a loud crash outside. We rushed to the window and saw Sarah standing in the driveway, a rock in her hand. She had smashed one of Emily's car windows, and she stood there, her face twisted with rage and something darker, something that scared me more than anything I'd ever seen before. "Sarah," I yelled, running outside. "What the hell are you doing?" She didn't back down. In fact, she stepped toward me, her eyes wild and unrecognizable. "If you won't be with me," she said, her voice eerily calm, "I'll make sure she can't have you." That was the moment I realized Sarah wasn't just angry or heartbroken. She was dangerous. I called the police, and they arrived within minutes, taking her away in handcuffs. But the damage was done. Emily was shaken, and honestly, so was I. The woman I had once loved had turned into someone I didn't recognize, someone who was willing to hurt the person I cared about just to hold on to a twisted sense of control. In the aftermath, I tried to pick up the pieces. Emily was still by my side, but things were different now. The fear and the trauma of what had happened lingered between us like a dark cloud. Sarah had shattered more than just a car window that night. She had shattered the fragile peace I had worked so hard to build. I still think about her sometimes, about how things could have been different if she had just let go. If she had just accepted that we weren't meant to be anymore. But she didn't, and now, I'm left dealing with the wreckage of a love that turned into something toxic, something dangerous. Emily and I are still together, but there's always that lingering fear in the back of my mind, that Sarah might come back, that she might try to hurt us again. It's a fear I'll probably live with for a long time. But for now, I'm focusing on what matters, moving forward, healing, and keeping the people I love safe from the shadows of my past. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed these Reddit stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.